to a new episode of the brand called You. Today, I have a very, very good friend, a very successful entrepreneur, Kumar Singal, with us. Neeraj, welcome to the show.
Thank you, sir.
Neeraj is an entrepreneur. He's in electronic vehicle charging stations, batteries, energy storage. He handles a lot of railways work and a lot of defense work. More importantly, he is an alumni from the Harvard Business School and he's a member of the Young Presidents Organization or YPO. Neeraj, tell me a little bit about your early career before we come to your current passion of electronic vehicles.
So my journey started from a very small town where my father was working, a very small town known as Bharatpur in Rajasthan. We came in Delhi city in 1995, and I was always passionate about doing the business since my early childhood days when I used to see my family members, means other family members besides my father, everybody is in business. So we came to Delhi. My father was an investor in the stock market since long time. So I also became interested in and knowing about more about the stocks and the stuff. And in my school, I met one of my friend whose brother is also a stockbroker. So I got interested. So I was studying it during that time in Daryaganj. So occasionally we started going to the Delhi Stock Exchange, which is in Asaf Ali Road. And fortunately, after 6, 7 months, means when my father shifted here in New Delhi, lot of his friends in Bharatpur always calls him to buy or sell some shares. So I started my own business.
Wonderful.
At the age of 16 in stock markets.
So you were an entrepreneur from the time you were 16?
For all my life.
Okay.
So I started my own business as stock sub-broker, and time grew. I had done my 12th grade, then I got the admission in Shriram College and Hansraj College. Fortunately, due to my closeness with my friend, I preferred to go in Hansraj College.
And you and I are from the same college.
Yes, so okay. So in Hansraj College in 1987 to 1990, I had done my undergrads or graduation, and but means I am full time in the business also during that time. And in 1995, I became the member of National Stock Exchange.
Oh, wow.
Very early member of National Stock Exchange, if
Okay.
I can recognize well. I was the 12th or 14th member of the National Stock Exchange.
Okay.
During that time, the National Stock Exchange was created. And what means, as the life journey is lot of successes and lot of failures.
So initially you were in, and even now you are very big in the railway business.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about this business.
So as I was telling you my story, so when I failed miserably in the stock markets. So I went to my father to what to do next. He guided me, okay, you start seeing some engineering business. So no engineering background, nothing. So I took keen interest in engineering business, and there was some requirement of railway related stuff in India, majorly the railway wheel and axles. I went to China, I visited various places. Means it's very hard to visit China during that time. And I forged some kind of relationship with few railways companies there. And we started representing them in India. And in 2005, when the business grew well, we started discussing the joint venture with them. And in 2006, we entered into a joint venture with them for manufacturing the wheels and axle businesses.
Okay.
And that company is one of the, not one of the largest, but the largest railways companies in the world.
Amazing.
Yes.
Amazing.
So, and we still command majority of shares in the railway wheel and axle businesses in India, from the private sector.
Amazing. Wonderful. So let's move to your current passion. I'm sure railways is very, very big business. But, you've been talking about your interest in clean energy.
Yes.
For the thousands of people who will watch our conversation, what is clean energy?
Okay, so theoretically, I will take 2-3 minutes to explain.
Yeah.
So normally, the energy which we presently consume is generated majorly by the fossil fuels. Fossil fuels means either coal or for the oil. And all these generates the emissions or maybe smoke, some type of smoke, which creates lot of pollution. So then we discovered how, and it means ultimately this energy is converted into electrical energy, or we use this energy in our, the largest user of the energy is also the automotive sector. So then means there are few clean ways of producing the energy since long time also, like the hydropower. So means it's not sufficient, it's very limited. Then people started discovering how we can get some energy from the cleaner sources. Then came the solar power. So from solar, you can means you are not burning anything. You are just using the natural way of energy from the heat and converting it to the electrical energy and using it. Second way is the wind. So means you can have the wind, you can run the turbine, or you can run the things and produce the energy. So these are the clean sources because they don't take anything from the environment,
Right.
and they don't give back any bad things to the environment.
So tell me, you now got a lot of interest and a growing business in electric vehicles. Uh, how do you see the growth of electronic vehicles in India?
So electrical vehicles, if we see, so I told you a bit about the clean energy and this. So now the problem remains is we require energy 24 hours. And when we require energy 24 hours, how we can have the energy 24 hours? Because sun is only there for 4 to 6 hours. Wind depends upon the moods of God. Sometimes it's there, sometimes it's not there. So then people started working how we can use this clean energy 24 hours. Then they discovered the sources where they can store the energy. So earlier there are some conventional ways of storing the energies like pumped hydro and different stuff. So later on they come out with very after a lot of research they come out with a battery which can store the energy when it is available and use the energy when it is not available. So same concept when the cost means first it was too highly priced, but then people started using this batteries in electrical vehicles. So when they started using these batteries in electrical vehicles, due to the sheer volume, the prices came down. So now means that's the story of electrical vehicles. So your question is about why India is not adopting. So in India, what we see is that still we are a way behind in the battery systems. China started researching about the batteries since 1995 and means they are very advanced in this sector. So I always say because I am visiting China since last more than 20 years, I had seen everything grown before my eyes. So I always say that whenever you travel all around the world or you see in India also, you can see Chinese stuff everywhere except vehicles. So I think somebody in the Chinese government thought that okay, now we will manufacture the vehicles also and rule the world. And same is happening now. Means everywhere electrical vehicles. More than 70% of the these batteries are produced in China, and more than 70% of the electrical vehicles are produced in China.
So this new MG.
If you name
that's
MG,
actually a Chinese-owned company.
MG, BYD, you name anybody. Most of these are.
So is there an opportunity for you to manufacture batteries?
So means batteries manufacturing is a very complex job. So means lot of very big organizations like Reliance and very big corporates are and trying to enter into this business. So means setting up the factories is easy, but managing the commodity businesses with lot of supply chains from all around the world is extremely difficult.
So tell me, let's talk about the Indian consumer. The Indian consumer is quite an aware customer.
Yes.
As far as automobiles is concerned, when we switched to CNG in Delhi, the take-up was good, people appreciated it. People are conscious of petrol versus diesel. Why is the Indian consumer not demanding more electric vehicles?
So there are 2-3 factors. One is the lack of confidence. Why lack of confidence? Because nobody have a proven product yet. There are a lot of imported component in these vehicles, and second is the infrastructure problem also. Thirdly, the finance problem also, because financiers are not ready to finance. Because as we see with our vehicles, we run it for 10, 15, 20 years. So means still we could not, or the consumers could not see that these vehicles will run after 10, 15, 20 years, and because lot of all the battery components are imported. that may be a major factor. And still, secondly, if you look at the consumers means there is one personal use and the commercial use. So these vehicles are initially costlier. So the people like the delivery boys who are delivering all the food or something on the commercial basis, who runs their vehicle means around more than 100 kilometers a day, the viability comes. Otherwise, when you take the upfront cost versus the upfront cost of the old vehicles, so means it's a big difference.
Right. So, before when I was preparing to talk to you, I was also reading about electric vehicles, and I was told, or I was reading that one big problem is charging stations. What is your thought on that?
Yes, charging stations is a problem also, but means I don't see that charging station is so much problem.
Okay.
Charging station is a problem. Means we will means they are coming. Government is taking very proactively taking the step to establish the charging stations. I don't see it's as so much a problem.
Okay.
It's means one of the point where a lot of people have lot of ignorance
Right.
how the vehicles will be charged.
Right.
But means definitely we need lot of good infrastructure which is underway, and the problem is same which will come first. So we all know that at least we should have some bare minimum charging infrastructure, which government is taking very proactive steps, and government agencies are executing that also. And that infrastructure or means charging stations can be installed very fast.
Right.
So means I don't see it as a major problem.
Okay. So let's talk about Tesla.
Yeah.
I mean, they started in 2008, and everybody who likes cars knows Tesla as a name. It continues to be very aspirational, it continues to be very expensive, and yet I was reading somewhere that they're launching in China and they're very cheap in China. What is they could not be having technology which is, if I can use the word, rocket science. Why are other manufacturers not being able to do the same thing?
Same thing what happens with the corporates and the startup.
Okay.
So I mean, exactly same. If you will look at the Tesla's China's plant, they delivered their first car only few days before, straight in the 1 year. Means in 1 year they started building the plant, they completed the plant, they got all the approvals, they assembled the car. Basically, I am saying assembled because it is majorly assembled, and cars were delivered, and you can watch the Elon Musk dancing delivering the car. I have posted that video on my Twitter and social medias also. And the thing is same exactly. If you remember well, I remember 4 or 5 years before, Elon Musk has published all its patent and allowed everybody who wants to build the electric car.
Right.
But still means when we say, if you must have heard that he never knew that it is impossible and it cannot be done. So he tried and he achieved the same. So I always think like that, because the conventional car thinkers who build the plant in 10, 15 years, 20 years, they have their own legacy problems or bureaucratic mindset or bureaucratic way of working or thinking. That's the only problem, I think.
Right.
And second thing is the design. So means the Tesla is a masterpiece, if you will see, like the iPhone.
Yes.
iPhone is majorly, we buy iPhone valued more than, means at a price of 50, 60, 70,000, whereas the same feature is available in a phone of 10,000 rupees only, because of the design masterpiece only.
Right. So Neeraj, one more question on EVs before I move to the next part of the show. You spoke about, the old technology and all the people, but today is the day and age of millennials.
Yes.
How are millennials changing the car business?
So we are all from the old school. So
I'm older than you are.
Yes. So means the thing is, maybe when we think of buying the car or spending our money, we only see very few data points like cost of the car, efficiency of the car, how I will use it. But I think when these millennials try to use these things, they think very broadly. So they are much more concerned about the design element also. They are much more concerned about the ownership model also. That's why the shared model is running. They also think that, okay, if I can share it, if I can get it on rent, it is best for me. And lot of people also think about the technology. So whereas means what is the technology? It's the green technology, and they are passionate about the newer technologies. So that's the major difference which I am seeing
Okay.
is creating the disruption in the auto industry also.
Okay. So Neil, let me move to the next part and let me take you back to where you started, as an investor. Uh, you have invested in over 20 startups. You are a part of the angel network in the country. So I have the next few questions on startups and entrepreneurship. And you, of course,
Okay.
have always been an entrepreneur.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on co-founders?
So co-founder, I always found that the means every startup should have few co-founders to look after the different functions of the startups or different functions of the business, because all the functions are very critical. Technology nowadays is very critical. Marketing is another critical function. Finance is another critical function. Managing a different stuff is another critical function. So without having the ownership mind state, it is very difficult to get the people who will deliver so much.
Very interesting. So my next question, and again, this is based on your personal experience and with so many startups you have invested in. What are some of the basic mistakes a lot of startup entrepreneurs make?
I mean, mistakes are different. Means first thing is I see a lot of people, a lot of young students start the startup for the sake of just doing the startup
Or a
or
valuation?
doing the business, means because it appears too rosy that okay, this company is raised so much, doing so little business, or this life is too good, but the things don't work like that. So I always suggest to them, until unless you have very strong motivation, strong creativity, strong reasons to start a startup, or else work in a startup. First, gain the experience, see how the things work, then only do the startups. Don't start a startup just because it is in fashion.
Right. Or because you think there'll be big valuation.
Yeah, I mean, valuation is the nothing means. It's means I always think I never think in the terms of valuation. Maybe because of our old school thinking.
Yeah, I agree. So the next question is, whenever I speak to a startup founder, they say we want to be pan-India. And I explained to them, I said, why do you want to be pan-India? When sitting in the national capital region, you have 22 million people, which is bigger than most countries.
Yes.
When should a startup start to scale up?
So means if you means I always say is that you need to create a product, test it enough, then try to have a particular area. Means you should become a leader in a smaller category, smaller region, leader, instead of having presence all over the world, or all over the India, or all over places. Maybe become a leader in a small place, test it with the hundreds of people there, then try to expand only.
Agree.
Yeah, but means because they are not getting the sufficient traction, maybe in a smaller area, they thinks that okay, going to the different places they will expand, but the things don't work like
I
that.
agree. So as an investor, what do you look for before taking a decision to invest?
So means one, founders, or means how passionate, or
Yeah.
means how the chemistry between the founders are there. So means that's one major point to see that okay, will they be able to carry forward with whatever idea they have. Secondly, means if they are willing to do it on some realistic basis. Most of the startup pitches you see, it's the Excel calculation which does not work in the business. So means how realistic are they? What they had really worked on the product itself instead of just creating the pitch.
Right.
So means you get the feel if you start discussing with them, chatting with them for 1 hour or 2 hours, you start getting the vibes, hunch. Sometimes I say that's more important than anything else.
So one more question on money. A lot of people give me different views. When an entrepreneur or startup wants money, should they delay raising money and bootstrap, or should they keep getting as much money as they can?
So means money is important to run any business, but means I always says the other part is also equally important. So means yes, to have the money is good, but try to understand nobody will give you the money until unless you have a great product.
Correct.
So suppose somebody comes to me, I don't want to see their definition. I say, show me what you have done. So means, and ultimately it's like this, success is not what you chase. Success is what you attract.
Correct.
If you will see the big startups, eventually they had raised money, they have stories about raising money. But it is ultimately the thing which you attract. So means you need some money also, but it is really the product which works.
Correct. Correct. So Neeraj, my last segment, which is some questions for you personally.
Okay.
You know, you came from Rajasthan,
Yes.
and you started trading with your father when you were 16 years old. Over the years, have you had any people who have influenced your life? And if yes, what have you learned from them?
There are a lot of influences, but major influencer in my life is my father only. Still means we sit together in one office next to each other, and I had read a lot of books, I had traveled, I had joined various organizations, I go to various networking events, I meet so many people, but my father never went to any such thing.
Okay.
But whatever I learned from the books, or I see a lot of great people speaking, when I come back and try to reflect on that, I see there is some element of all these qualities in my father, which has never been to any of these events or any of these places. So means he is one of my biggest mentor. And further, there are a lot of influencer in every way. Means on every trade you get a lot of influencer. But means I really miss not having any mentor. That's why I now mentor a lot of kids, just because I know the importance of mentoring. That if I would have mentor at my early stage, maybe my destiny may have been different.
I think you've done incredibly well. So my next question to you, Neeraj, would be, what would be 3 words that define you?
3 words means you can say, I work very hard. Means very hard and passionately. You can say hardworking. Secondly, I'm very authentic. So I had never felt the need of proving something, showing something. I speak, I work, I do as I am. Thirdly, you can say either confident or adaptive. So means I had traveled into so many geographies. I had tried to do so many businesses. I met so many people. So I adapt. What means work very confidently. So if you mix all these together, adaptability or confident with hardworking and with authentic, I think most of the things works out.
Wonderful. That's very well said. What is the secret of your success?
In one word, it is hardworking. Hardworking means I keep on working means.
Okay. So my next question, I only have 2 more questions left now. All of us fail.
Yes.
And unfortunately, in India particularly, and maybe all over Asia, we don't teach our children it is okay to fail. Standard, everyone says is first आना, सबसे आगे चलो, etc. etc. What have been some of your learnings from some of your mistakes or failures?
If I look at this way, means I may have been failed many more times than means most of these young people who may have failed 4 or 5 times, and you fail every day. Means in business also you are trying to make some deal and you fail. Then you again go. So means I don't think failure is anything. Just it's the result means means maybe earlier because we correlate the failures or successes with the early days in education, where if you fail you lose 1 year and maybe you have some social impact. That if we will try to carry in our business also, it will not work. So I think so means failure is a part means every day you fail, every day you win, means it's the battle.
Correct.
Battle you need to work. So means failure does not mean anything to me or means somebody comes and says, okay, so you've now become more experienced. So means the things like work. So I always welcome it's the result. Sometimes you see everything looks very good, but things don't work out.
Well said.
So means failure is nothing, means practically saying it's the just way of thinking.
Well said. Well said. So here's my last question, and this is back to startups. There are so many people who will hear you and me talking. You have been such an incredible mentor for startups. What would your advice be to a young individual watching us and wants to start a business?
Just be more creative. What I see is people are not so creative and just try to start the startup for the sake of starting. If you are more creative in anything you do, it will be great.
Okay.
Think everything will be, because rest of the things nowadays machines are doing.
Right. Neeraj, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure speaking to you. Thank you for coming to
It's
the
all
Brand
my
Call
pleasure,
Here.
sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You podcast. Be sure to visit tbcy.in to join the conversation, access show notes, and discover fantastic bonus content. You can follow us on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Simply search for the Brand Called You. Thank you and see you next week.